At exactly 3:47, the Strait of Hormuz became the most dangerous stretch of water on Earth. An Iranian Kilo-class submarine, running silent at 400 feet beneath the surface, fired 2 heavyweight torpedoes at the USS Gerald R. the most advanced aircraft carrier ever constructed, a 100,000-ton nuclear-powered warship carrying the most sophisticated naval defense network in human history. The Iranian crew had spent years preparing for this moment. They had studied the strait's shallow, acoustically complex geography and concluded that its layered thermoclines and dense ambient noise would conceal their approach. They believed surprise would be enough. They had no idea the trap had already closed around them 12 hours before they ever reached firing position. The preparation began before sunrise the previous day, when a Boeing P-8A Poseidon Maritime Patrol aircraft lifted off from a classified airfield in the region and began a methodical transit across the strait. Her crew seeded the water below with sonobuoys. 140 acoustic sensors dropped in an overlapping grid spanning 60 square miles. Passive buoys listened in silence. Active buoys sent invisible pulses through the deep. Together they formed a web so finely woven it could detect a submarine's mechanical breath at depth. At 2:14, the first contact appeared. A faint diesel-electric signature bearing 112 degrees, speed 3 knots, depth 380 feet, riding the thermocline in an effort to hide inside nature's own acoustic shadow. The data transmitted instantly to the Ford's Combat Information Center. Within seconds, every warship in the carrier strike group had the submarine's exact position. The Iranian captain believed he was the hunter. He was already the prey. The Gerald R. is $13 billion of floating battle network. Her Combat Direction Center processes more tactical data in 60 seconds than the entire Iranian Navy handles in a week. Beneath the waterline, her passive sonar suite had been cataloging the Kilo-class submarine's acoustic fingerprint for hours. Every revolution of its propeller shaft, every hum of its electric motor, every mechanical signature of a vessel attempting to stalk the most defended warship ever put to sea. Nothing about the Iranian submarine was unknown. Its depth, its speed, its heading, its intentions, all of it had been plotted, analyzed, and fed into targeting systems that were already calculating firing solutions before the Iranian captain had settled on his attack vector. At 3:22, 2 MH-60R Seahawk helicopters lifted off from the destroyer USS McFall. Each aircraft carried Mark 54 lightweight torpedoes and a dipping sonar system the Iranian submarine could not detect and could not evade. They moved into position without transmitting, without illuminating any active sensor that might betray their presence. 2 predators descending silently above their prey. The trap was fully set. The strike group had only to wait. At 3:47, the Iranian captain committed. Firing a torpedo is not a quiet act. The compressed air ejection system creates an acoustic transient that travels through seawater at roughly 3,300 feet per second. To every American hydrophone within 20 nautical miles, the sound arrived like a cannon fired inside a cathedral. Sharp, distinctive, unmistakable. 2 torpedoes bearing 094 degrees range 11,500 yards, closing at 40 knots. The Ford's crew had 43 seconds before potential impact. They did not need them all. The ANSLQ-25C Nixie acoustic decoy deployed from the carrier's stern within 4 seconds of torpedo detection. It is a towed device of considerable sophistication, designed to replicate the exact acoustic signature of the ship's own propeller wash and broadcast it as a false target, so convincing that a torpedo's guidance system cannot distinguish the decoy from the vessel it is meant to protect. The first Iranian torpedo locked onto the Nixie. It chased a ghost across 11,000 yards of open water, past 275 meters from the Ford's hull, exhausted its fuel, and sank into the dark. The second torpedo's guidance system detected 2 acoustic sources and selected the louder one. It, too, followed the decoy to its cold and purposeless end at the bottom of the strait. The Iranian captain had fired his best weapons at the world's most powerful warship. He had not scratched the paint. Now it was America's turn. The response took 91 seconds from the moment the torpedoes were launched to the moment weapons were authorized. The rules of engagement admitted no ambiguity. An unprovoked torpedo attack against a United States aircraft carrier is an act of war, and the reply would not be measured or restrained. It would be final. The two Seahawks had been holding position above the Kilo for 26 minutes, their dipping sonars locked on a firing solution precise to the submarine's exact depth, speed, and heading. 4 Mark 54 torpedoes entered the water simultaneously. The Mark 54 does not miss. Its active acoustic seekers ping 37,000 times per second, making real-time course corrections that a submarine crew has no answer for. The torpedoes closed at 40 knots. The Kilo's maximum sprint speed is 17. Mathematics does not negotiate. Inside the submarine, the incoming weapons were detected 22 seconds before impact. Emergency blow was ordered. Maximum speed was ordered. Evasive maneuvers were ordered. None of it changed what was coming. The first Mark 54 struck the engine compartment at 3:49. 44 pounds of high explosive detonated against a pressure hull already stressed by 400 feet of seawater. A 15-foot gash tore open through the steel. Seawater flooded in at 80,000 gallons per minute. The second torpedo arrived 9 seconds later. The Kilo-class submarine imploded at 420 feet. All 38 crew members were lost instantly. From torpedo launch to the submarine's destruction, 2 minutes and 41 seconds. But the engagement was not finished because the submarine had never acted alone. For 3 hours, Strike Group intelligence assets had been tracking secondary contacts, 12 Iranian surface combatants that had departed Bandar Abbas 6 hours earlier under the cover of a routine patrol. The doctrine was classic asymmetric thinking. The submarine strikes first, drawing defensive attention downward toward the subsurface threat, while the surface force closes to missile range and overwhelms the carrier with sheer volume of fire. The theory had one fatal flaw. The Americans had been watching those ships since they cleared port. At 4:12, the USS Delbert D. Black's Aegis combat system achieved simultaneous firing solutions on all 12 surface contacts. 24 SM-6 missiles erupted from vertical launch cells in a ripple of fire and exhaust. Dual-mode seekers locked onto individual targets. The Iranian ships had no warning, no time to maneuver, and no time to deploy countermeasures. In 67 seconds, Iran's entire Strait of Hormuz naval surface force ceased to exist. The Gerald R. Ford never changed course. Not a single degree, not a single knot. Within 4 hours, Tomahawk cruise missiles from 3 destroyers began impacting Iran's submarine base at Bandar Abbas. 11 Tomahawks struck in a coordinated, time-on-target salvo. The piers, the maintenance infrastructure, the command and control facilities, all of it was reduced to burning wreckage before sunrise. Iran had spent decades engineering its asymmetric naval architecture around that base, around those submarines, around the Kilo-class boats it had called its silent shield. By breakfast, the shield was debris on the floor of the strait. The surface and subsurface engagements were not the end of it. At 6:15 a.m., 4 FA-18E Super Hornets launched from the Ford's flight deck on a mission to eliminate every mobile missile launcher Iran had positioned along the southern coastline. P-8A Poseidons had been tracking those vehicles for 18 hours. Targeting packages were uploaded to the aircraft before they left the catapult. Iranian commanders had dispersed the launchers across coastal roads and fishing communities, calculating that American rules of engagement would hesitate near civilian infrastructure. The calculation was wrong. Every launcher that had participated in the attack had surrendered any such protection the moment it released a weapon against American forces. The Super Hornets worked methodically down the target list. AGM-65 Maverick missiles, precision strikes. One by one, the launch vehicles that Iran had spent years positioning along the strait's northern shore were destroyed. By 7:30, the coastal missile belt that had formed the spine of Iran's naval deterrent strategy for 3 decades was gone. The Pentagon briefing at 9 a.m. Washington time delivered the final accounting with the calm efficiency of an organization that had done exactly what it trained to do. 1 Kilo-class submarine lost with all hands, 12 surface combatants destroyed, 1 submarine base demolished, 14 mobile missile launchers eliminated. Iran's losses: 38 submarine sailors, more than 200 surface sailors, and $800 million in naval assets accumulated over decades and erased in a single morning. America's losses: 0 casualties, 0 ships damaged, $61 million in munitions expended. The Strait of Hormuz remained open. Oil markets had spiked at the first news of the torpedo attack. By noon, they were settling because tankers were still moving and the Ford was still sailing. In Tehran, the silence inside the Naval Command Center was of a particular and devastating quality. Admirals who had devoted careers to refining the asymmetric doctrine stared at screens showing empty ocean where their fleet had been, the submarines they had built and maintained as a strategic deterrent, the fast attack swarms they had drilled in coordinated harassment tactics, the missile batteries embedded along the coastline. All of it dismantled before the morning call to prayer had finished echoing across the city. The doctrine had rested on a set of assumptions about American response time, about the acoustic limitations of operating in the Strait's complex shallow waters, about the political hesitation that might slow a counterattack long enough for Iranian numbers to matter. Every assumption had been wrong. The Gerald R. Ford resumed normal flight operations at 6:30. Her crew served breakfast at the normal hour. The engagement was logged, transmitted, and filed. For a carrier strike group that manages more tactical complexity before dawn than most navies handle in a year, the morning's events were remarkable only in their completeness. The trap had closed. The response had been delivered. The water was quiet again. Somewhere 420 feet below the surface of the Strait of Hormuz, 38 men lay inside a crushed steel cylinder. Sailors who had followed their orders into a surveillance architecture so complete, so patient, and so silent that they had never understood what surrounded them. From the moment their submarine entered the strait, there had been no invisibility. There had been no acoustic shadow deep enough to hide in, no thermocline thick enough to provide cover, no maneuver in their tactical library that the opposing force had not already anticipated and answered. They had believed the geography was on their side. They had believed training and sacrifice could neutralize the technological distance between the two navies. They had believed in those final seconds that their evasive maneuvers might be enough. The strait remained open. The Ford sailed on. And the lesson that Iran's asymmetric naval doctrine had staked everything on disproving was written now in the deep water, in the dark, in the silence where their most capable submarine had once believed it was invisible and had not been, not for a single second, from the moment it left port.